Good morning, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order Tuesday, March 2nd at 10 a.m. All three supervisors are in Globe. We'll start this off with a Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be done by Mr. Sandoval, and will you lead us in the pledge as well? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, in the book of Malachi, you say, He has shown thee, O man, what is good and what the Lord requires of thee, to love, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. Lord, what is justice without mercy? Lord, what is complete mercy without justice? So, Lord, we depend on you in our hearts to develop in us this balance between justice and mercy. Father, I pray for our supervisors today and for the people of Gila County. We have much to be thankful for. The vaccine is on track. Lord, our leadership has been strong, steady. People are becoming well. Lord, I pray for our country politically, that it would become well. Lord, that we would have a sense of unity. And Lord, that we would have a sense of justice and mercy between and for one another. And Lord, we'd be remiss if we didn't leave out the last phrase of that scripture, that we walk humbly with thy God. Lord, I pray that we would walk with you in humility. Lord, that we would plant that humility in our hearts and that we would look to you for the strength, the wisdom, the justice, and the mercy. So we lay this meeting before you, and we thank you for this day and these servants. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you very much. Okay, good morning. We'll start with our regular agenda item 2A. Information, discussion, action to consider the Tano National Resources Conversion District request for funding and the preparation of an intergovernmental agreement between Gila County and the Tano National Resource District, whereby the county will disperse $30,000 to the Tano National Resources District to assist in the money required to match the U.S. Forest Service monitoring funds for the continuation of the Reading the Range program for 1 year. Supervisor Klein, you on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have two ladies here with us today that are, one's chairman on the NRCD board now, and the other one's our extension officer out of U of A, Ashley and Lori Brown. But what I did was I asked them to come in here today and speak to you all about the functions of the NRCD board and what it does and how that works. Ashley has got a lot of insight on the Reading the Range program and the benefits that has brought to the county over the, Ashley, probably 10, 12 years at least. And so with that, Lori, you want to start this? And this is Lori Brown, chairman of the NRCD.
Thank you, and thank you, supervisors.
Good morning.
So I was learned about the supervisors probably about 20 plus years ago when Tommy Martin had called me and asked me to sit on the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I have been on that board. When my brother died in 2014, I took a little bit of a break, and then I've been on that board. And about 10 or 12 years ago, she asked me to do Tono NRCD. It was kind of like when my phone rang, if it was her, I was like, she's got me into a lot. But she was very knowledgeable, and I appreciate that. I'm a longtime resident of Gila County. I was pretty much born in Cottonwood, but raised in Pine. I'm a fifth-generation rancher, so the things that Tono NRCD are very important to me. So Tono NRCD pretty much protects our resources and in the ranching community and what's around us, I think is very important. We have a noxious weed program, which we've just kind of separated out from the others. We do range management, improvements, clean water program, drought relief. And when Tommy had called me, she had asked me to do education. And education is very important to me. I've been involved in 4-H pretty much all my life up until I got older. And then when I moved back to Tono about 22 years ago, I've been a 4-H leader. And I think that's the most important thing, is to teach our kids when they're young. So I started a program. Tommy had a pilot program, so I put in for a grant. And we did Payson schools, 4th grade, because that's about 4-H age. And we did 4 or 5 classroom lessons and then brought them out to the ranch and gave them a day on the ranch. And some of our classes are how many farms it takes to make a pizza, and we give them pizza. We do a dairy class, and they get to make homemade ice cream in a little baggie. We do cotton, what's in your closet. We tell them your clothes even come from a farmer. A lot of them don't know that, and then they get cotton candy. We do a mining class, which is important down here in Globe, because a lot of them don't even know what the mines are, and they get to mine a chocolate chip cookie. So all the things that we do are very learning, and they're to do with agricultural. And to me, agricultural is one of the most important things there is, and people don't really realize it. They just think you're a farmer, you're a rancher. Where do you get your meat? You go to McDonald's, whatever the case might be. They don't really even know where their food comes. And even though we're a rural community, they don't know that. So I still do that program, but as we did, we extended it completely through the county. So we do all the 4th grade in the county, and we still bring them to the ranch. The COVID has really messed us up because we've missed the last 2 years, but we are going to try to make those kids up. They got their classroom lessons, but they didn't get to come to the ranch. So we're hoping that they get to do that. When they come to the ranch, they get to do wagon rides. They get to mine for gold. They get to plant a plant. We do teach them the farming part of it too, and the ranching and why we brand and tag and so on and so forth. We brand 1 calf, so they get to see that done. You know, we rope them in the corral, and just like we would when we were out on the ranch. Most of ours we do in a squeeze chute now, but they get to watch it the old-fashioned way. They get a stick horse ranch rodeo. They get a brand, a little sign, and it's a really great program as well. Today we're here. That's kind of our background of Tono NRCD, of the things that we do throughout the year. So our background today is range monitoring. And the reason the range monitoring is so important is throughout Gila County, all of us know that the biggest part of our land in Gila County is Forest Service, and most of it is grazing. And with the grazing, we do the range monitoring to know what the forage is and how much forage there is for the cattle to graze. And if we have this record of the range monitoring, and Ashley will get into all the details, if the Forest Service were to tell us that we couldn't be on with these statistics of the years going by, it helps you with your numbers and be able to keep your numbers on, or if you had to go against the Forest Service, you would be able to have these records. So it's very important. And we did a grant with the Forest Service. We have $30,000, I believe it was a 3-year grant, and it was $30,000 a year for 3 years, and it matches the funds with the Forest Service and the U of A. And what it is Ashley's paid by the U of A, but her helpers and the people that are there. There's a rancher, and then the Forest Service come out as well. So it's not just like they go out and do it, but your ranchers on site. But it's very important to Gila County, and I appreciate that you guys are having this come up, and for your listening to us and knowing how important it is for this to happen. So with that being said, Ashley has a presentation, and then it'll help everybody further understand it. And Ashley, I appreciate you coming, because I was starting to sweat bullets when she wasn't coming. I'm like, oh no. So she's very good at what she does. She took Jim Sprinkle, for some of you that don't know Jim Sprinkle, but he started this program years ago, and his heart was soul and into it, and he believed it. And Ashley has kind of taken from his steps and gone with it and done a great job. So thank you, Ashley, and it's your turn.
Lori, thank you.
I didn't get my slides to them in time, but I have a little printout. Yeah, so like Lori said, I am the extension agent. I know Supervisor Humphrey and Supervisor Klein, you guys have seen, I think I gave a presentation to you guys in August about some of the stuff that I do with extension. But for those that don't know, yeah, basically, extension's purpose within the county. So I'm technically an off-campus faculty member, and our goal is really just to bring science to the community and help them in a way that's beneficial economically, and just overall just providing good impacts to the community. So, you know, we have 4-H, I'm range and livestock, we have family and consumer health science people. So me focusing on the range and livestock side of things, the Reading the Range program is one of the bigger things that I do outside of my educational workshops. And then I'm also involved with Lori and the Ag Days program and some other natural resource youth development. But as far as Reading the Range goes, like Lori said, my predecessor, Dr. Sprinkle, started this mid-2000s. Woody?
Probably right in there.
It was mid-2000s, and when he retired, I was hired on to take his place. And so my goal really has been to expand the program to all of the ranchers that work or that graze on the Tonto. So currently, there's 74 ranches that participate in the program. I only have about 6 left to get on board with monitoring, and so I'm hoping to do that by 2022. I really want to get it done this year, but with COVID, it's been hard for me to get out of the office too. But I can make the justification because we're outside and we're able to social distance. And so really, the university extension is involved because we kind of serve as an unbiased third party, giving the Forest Service and the permittees that a way to make sound science-based decisions. So it's not just willy-nilly. They make, you know, they actually have something to form those management decisions, basically just making sure that we can sustain our healthy rangelands. As Lori said, most of the land in Gila County is national forest, and all of the permittees that are grazing, really we just want to make sure that the grazing isn't ever a thing that's removed from the forest. And so, because it has happened in the past, especially during one of the significant droughts in the early 2000s, all of the cattle were removed from the Tonto. And so we're really trying to get to the point where that doesn't happen again. And so that's a lot of what the data that I'm collecting is, a whole different suite of protocols that allow us to look at vegetation trend over time. And so the university doesn't provide any management suggestions. That's left up to the permittee and the Forest Service. Like I said, we're just providing the information and allowing them to use it to make decisions that they see fit. And it really does help, again, keeping cows on the range in a productive way, but also there are a lot of environmental groups that are anti-grazing, and so that don't want to see any cattle on public lands. And so this information can be used to say, no, we are doing a good job of managing our rangelands. Grazing is sustainable. We're not having a negative impact on vegetation trend over time. So it's just, again, it all goes back to sustaining our healthy rangelands for cattle grazing, so it can continue for generations. You know, Lori said she's fifth generation. Some of the ranchers that I work with, they bring their kids out when we go monitoring. They take the day off school. The kids come out. They see what they're doing. As they get older now, they're They're helping with the data collection, and so it does really provide that generational benefit too for kids that are coming up on ranches to see, what we're doing as far as, again, it's just going back to the sustaining the rangelands. So I don't know if you guys have any specific questions about it or about the program, or if there's any more details that I could answer.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Supervisor Christensen, do you have any questions, comments?
Thank you. It's Ashley, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Just a curiosity question. So this year seems to be a pretty significant drought year.
Yeah.
Is it going to be comparable to 2000?
So that's something that we're going to look at, especially with ranches that we do have monitoring data for from the 2000s. I will say it looks pretty rough out there, but I haven't really seen a lot of plant mortality, which is good despite the drought. We're not seeing that. I know in some places in the 2000s there was kind of a decrease in some of the plant species, and we've slowly seen that build up after time. I'm in the middle of my monitoring season still, and I haven't really gotten to sit down and look at the reports from the stuff from the 2000s yet to compare it. But I would imagine we might see a little bit of plant mortality in some places, but we'll have to just look.
Okay.
I wish I would have looked ahead of time. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you. And I have a question for Lori too. Did you say you have a gathering at your ranch this month?
No, it was also.
Hold on a second. If you could step up to the microphone so everyone can hear you, please.
So this year we're not doing Ag Days because of the COVID. They won't let us back in the classroom.
Okay.
So we won't be doing it. But we have, on the 13th, we have the Gymkhana that you were interested in to come out. So that's on Saturday at the arena. Is that
Okay.
what you're asking?
Yeah. That's what it
Okay.
was.
Okay.
March 13th. Yeah.
And you'll hear from us later on that.
Okay. What time does that start?
10 o'clock.
Okay. All right.
So-
Thanks.
Thank you. Supervisor Klein.
Did you have something else, Lori?
No,
You're good?
With Ashley being done, I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to hear this. Our cattle actually were taken off in 2000 and to 2002 to 2004, and it was a bad drought, and then we got a lot of rain, and it came back. And you're out there right now, and it does look bad, but as long as your plants are not being taken down, it will come back, but it is come back slow. So I hope we do get moisture. So it's been a rough year for a lot of people, and I know there's going to be a lot of cattle taken off, and I think it's going to hurt in the long run because some people, you want to put that money back, but you can't because you can't afford it, and some of that money is taken to keep the cows that you keep, to feed them. And then with the fires that were in Gila County, I think a lot of people are really going to be struggling. I know that my family is, because we're trying to just keep our cows, and it's hard because of the bushfires. So
Yeah.
we appreciate that you guys listening and helping with this. So thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, so, just to add, as far as, so without this funding, it would just be me and maybe a rancher and one Forest Service person out there doing all of the monitoring. And so with this funding, this year I was able to hire 4 field assistants to work with me. So the more labor, obviously, the faster the monitoring gets done, and the more monitoring we can accomplish per year. So there's always a permittee or a rancher that's helping us, and they're a cowboy or someone that works with them. I typically have at least one Forest Service staff participating, if not a seasonal technician that works for the forest, definitely their permanent range staff, and then my crew that I'm able to hire through this NRCD and Forest Service agreement. So yes, I appreciate you being able to hear us, and because having this funding definitely helps make the work get done in a way more efficient manner than just me trying to cover 2.8 million acres. So yes, we
And
really
the
appreciate it.
lawsuits that the Liberals are putting against the Forest Service didn't participate in this for years and years. And I'm just going to say, what do you say, but the last 5 years, Woody?
For the Forest Service?
Yeah, that they've started to kind of help with the funding. They've come out, but not help at all with the funding. And they've just started helping with the funding because now they're using this data to help fight these lawsuits. Before, they just kind of went whatever, and they didn't even come out at first when Dr. Sprinkle was doing it. And then now they're totally involved. They have a person from the Forest Service personnel out on every day helping with this. And I think it helps a lot because I think it's going to help be able to keep us on the forest when it gets really, really bad. So, thank you guys.
Supervisor Klein, questions, comments?
No, just comments. These ladies are right. This did, I said 10, 12 years ago, but you're right. It was 2000, 2001. And what happened back then was a drought. And because of that, the government, the Forest Service came in and removed all the livestock off the Tono. They pulled them all. And that's where Dr. Sprinkle and NRCS and the NRCD board, then I think maybe Terry Wheeler may have been chairman of that board then. I believe it was. They all partnered up and came up, well, Dr. Sprinkle did with this program and started implementing it. The Forest Service made a big mistake when they removed all the livestock, and in about 2 or 3 years they realized it, the economic impact that losing all those cattle brought. So between Dr. Sprinkle's program, NRCS, that was partnering with a lot of management stuff on the ground, new fences, new waters, on and on and on. They were able to start building these ranches back up, putting them back together. And the Forest Service, after they realized what they had done and the loss that they had created in Gila County took a big hit. They came up with a core herd concept so that in future, like we are right now on another drought, you would have a core herd established on your permits that you'd be able to hold. It may only be 20 or 30 cows, but still it's something you can build back with. Because what people don't really understand is when you lose all your cows off of a permit and then you can't come back on with all new cattle, you lose 5 years. It takes 5 years for those cattle to get established and back on there and producing like they were when the original ones come off. So with this core herd concept was a good idea. But in the meantime, the Forest Service was still fighting all the lawsuits, mostly from the center. And they were getting backed in one corner after another, and mostly because of the old Parker monitoring stuff that they had. It was very outdated. Most of those sites a lot of them were in roads or they'd been plowed through. Things had changed. They didn't have good anything on it. Well, Dr. Sprinkle in this time had already started building these permits back. After a while, and after being hammered on pretty hard, the Forest Service finally came around to their senses and started wanting to play with Dr. Sprinkle and this program. And what it did was it provided all that monitoring data to them to show that, yes, we do have the capacity on the range to sustain these permits. And once they started that, and that information, they started putting it in their allotment EAs and EISs and all that, and incorporating in that, it really was a huge, huge benefit to Gila County to this day. And I know that even though we're in tough times, I just did my stuff with the Forest Service not long ago, and my ranger had already said they're going to be working with Ashley and looking at these allotments and see kind of what kind of shape they're on and kind of judging numbers by that. So, I mean, they've become a real big partner in all of our grazing stuff out there, which has been really good. And NRCS was too. They were another one.
Another thing too is what they did is in 2000, 2002, they just said, everybody take their cows out. And now they do it by a ranch, an allotment by allotment. So they're going to come out to your allotment, and if you have pastures or good feed, then you might get to stay on. Others that don't, then they're going to have to remove their cattle. So at least with that, it let them do an allotment by allotment. And another thing I just want to say is Game and Fish, when the cattle were taken off from like 2000, 2001, 2002, everybody was kind of different to 2004, nobody had water. So it also took a big hit on the Game and Fish department because they tried to haul water, they tried to do waters, they tried to do everything, and guess what? They couldn't, and they didn't have the manpower. And Game and Fish was kind of like, ooh, the ranchers, they eat the hay, they eat the feed for the elk, and they do this and that. And now it's kind of a neat partnership because I'm going to say probably 2010, would you say, that the Game and Fish really started getting involved. And now, through the Game and Fish, they help with tanks, clearing tanks. They help with funds through the HCP to help the ranchers put water on the ground because they know that they cannot water, and their hunting regulations went down, their animal production went down, wildlife and everything, by not having the cattle out on the range. So now it's a win-win situation because it's kind of like entities did not work together. The rancher didn't like the Forest Service. Game and Fish didn't like the rancher. It just kind of went back and forth. And now all these entities, to me, work together to make everybody happy. And I think that's a good thing, and I think that's what you have to make everybody successful. So.
Thank you. Supervisor Klein?
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you ladies very much for all that you do. And I'm not so sure about the Forest Service partnership because in my area between the Pinal Fire, the Woodbury Fire, and the Bush Fire, they're not playing fair in my opinion.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I'm not, but I'm making my comment. I have a hard time putting a feather in their hat when they moonscape a lot of my area. Pinal Fire went pretty well, but the Woodbury and the Bush Fire didn't go well at all. And so, Ashley, on that, with this moonscaped property, what are we looking at for it coming back? I know a lot of that depends on moisture, but still, what does that do?
Yeah, it definitely depends on moisture. So this year, I'm not seeing as much regrowth as quickly as after Woodbury, but I've definitely been out to some sites on the Bush where stuff's already starting to come back. I mean, very minimal growth, but it's better than nothing. And it's always better to see a little bit of growth than completely dead plants. So I am noticing when I'm out on the range, it is slowly coming back. Perennials, yeah. And it's just going to take a while because we are in such a significant drought, unfortunately. We kind of had a really bad time with a really bad dry year, a really wet year that gave us all the fuel for the fire, followed by another really dry year. So the vegetation just hasn't been able to respond like it did after the Woodbury when we got that really wet October. So that's kind of the situation right now.
Yeah, I'm kind of torn. I want to see the moisture, but I don't want to see the flooding. So,
right. Yeah,
it's kind of a double-edged sword. If we get a lot of moisture, we're going to have a lot of flooding, and
Yeah.
a lot of tanks are going to fill up, and a lot of creeks are going to be crazy. But we also need it to bring that back. So, like I say, I wish the Forest Service would do a little different with their burning procedures. But I thank you all very much for all that you do for our county and in helping us with the grazing land. Because you can tell where the fire was, where it had been grazed. It didn't burn near as hot as it did where they have, where it hadn't been grazed as much. So anyway, I thank you very much. And if we don't have anything else, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to prepare an intergovernmental agreement with the Tono Natural Resources Conservation District.
I'll second that.
Having a motion second, all in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all very much. Moving on to 2B, information, discussion, action to consider a sealed bid for the purchase of Assayers Tax Parcel Number 302-35-005E, and if accepted, authorize the chairman's signature on a quitclaim deed. Marion Shepherd, good morning.
Thank you, Chairman Humphrey and board members. As stated, this is a road, West Grace Lane off of North McLean Road in Payson. I had a homeowner who adjoins this road who's interested in purchasing the property. The total lien amount on this property is $3,708.59. She did acknowledge that if she purchased the road, she would be responsible for maintaining it, and she said that is her goal. So there's a few other property owners along the road, and she has submitted a sealed bid. If I may open the sealed bid envelope.
Okay. You may open the sealed envelope. Roy, did you have?
I live on Grace Lane. I don't know about this. So I'm just looking.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, Marion, you can open.
So I will. So if I may, Chairman Humphrey, before I read the results, Chairman Humphrey and Mr. Sandoval, this lady her name is Cynthia Romance, and like she said, there's a few other people, including you, living on this road, and her intent is to maintain it. This property was deeded to the state of Arizona, care of the Board of Supervisors in 2013. We had our annual auction and it didn't sell. So it's been sitting for a long time on a list of available properties for sale. So I guess I have a question, maybe on behalf of the board. How is that road? And who maintains it now?
Roy, if you don't mind stepping up to the microphone, please.
I was speaking with my neighbor who lives across the street on that road. It's private road. And we were under the impression that the ownership went to the center of the road from each side.
It doesn't, the map doesn't
No,
look
it doesn't look
as
like
that.
it. It turns out that, and we're all great friends. We've all lived there for a long time, but the east side of the road, we just had it repaved 2 years ago. And then where the romances are, they did not have theirs paved, so it's pretty rough. It's only a quarter mile long, you know. So ours is in great shape because we had it repaved.
Who repaved it?
Randall?
Was it like a homeowners association that paid for the
No,
paving of it?
no, it's just, it was 3 of the homeowners. So, I'm trying to get my bearings there. So that is 3 homeowners got together and decided to repave that part. So,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, no, thank you. Marion, did you open?
I did right now. I will read what she wrote, if I may.
Okay,
And this is from Andy and Cindy Romance. And it says, we desire to purchase the above referenced parcel, which is adjacent to the parcel we currently own. Noticed is that the subject parcel is on your state tax deeded properties list for sale list revised 2221. Although documented is a tax lien amount of $3,708.59. Since it is adjacent to our property, it is understood the county considers a bid. We currently find ourselves maintaining much of the subject neglected property and would therefore like to further lead in attending to our neighborhood's upkeep. We therefore request your consideration of our bid hereby submitted for $1,000. So, Chairman Humphrey,
good morning, surprise, glad you were here today.
if you could get to the,
it just caught me by surprise because
You
It
live
was-
there.
well, I lived there, but it was us. It was not the Romances who chipped in for the repaving of that part of the road.
Okay,
You
yeah.
know, so the thought of, well, they're going
I-
to maintain it from here on out. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, where were you when we just repaved it?
Yeah,
That's a whole different matter. And I'll take it up with them.
okay, yeah, and so the price is they're asking to take over this property for $1,000.
correct, and it would be the whole road, so.
Okay, well-
and I guess
I wish Steve was here today because I kind of have a question. If they own the property, can they then close the road?
No,
Oh, okay. And the thing of it is at what level will they maintain the road? I mean, if their part's not paved and another part is, I'm wondering at what level they'll maintain the road if they get the road for $1,000.
and Chairman Humphrey, I think that's a very valid point, and we are always cautious in selling roads or presenting them to the board for sale.
Yes.
And what I would ask Mr. Sandoval is, were they asked to chip in for the paving at one time?
Okay, so what happened is originally.
Well, we're getting on one side of a conversation
You're-
here, so I don't know how far we ought to
you
get
are
into
getting-
a
you are getting,
one-sided
but I can give you-
conversation.
I can give you some information, and that's it.
Okay, but like I say, we don't have the other side, so,
Right.
so go ahead, but,
20 years ago, we all chipped in to have it paved. 3 years ago, everybody had an opportunity, but only 3 members had it paved. So for example, my portion, which I believe I have that, mine is that last lot on the bottom there. Yeah, I believe. Mine was $2,200. The next person was $2,200. Person across the road, each of us paid $2,200 to have it paved. So there's a lot on the left. So there's one on the right, that's mine. There's one on the left, a second one on the left, and another one on the right. Those 4 each paid a couple $1,000s to have their portion paved. So in some ways, for me as a homeowner, and I guess I could express this to you, the thought that my neighbor directly across the street paid $2,200 and I paid $2,200, and now it's going to be okay to sell the whole thing, that whole half, for $1,000. I mean, it's your decision, but I'm like, something doesn't smell right on this here, you know.
well, that,
so.
yeah, and like I say, we're only hearing one side of this, because the people that are putting forth the bid are not able to give their
Absolutely.
their
Great to have it on
their
another agenda
explanation. So
where they can have their explanation.
right, and so yeah, I like I say, I don't feel good getting into a public one-sided conversation,
Absolutely.
and that's kind of what
It just caught me
we're doing
because
it.
I went,
I very much appreciate your input, and
I'll sit down.
and
See, if I hadn't done the invocation,
yeah, see, that's what I say. When we go back to the invocation, maybe there was a purpose you were here, but still, it's a one-sided conversation. So anyway, okay, we do have the letter opened, and they're asking to purchase that piece of property for $1,000 and keep it maintained. And so I guess I'm going to go to Supervisor Christensen. Comments?
It's curious to me, thank you, Mr. Chairman, it's curious to me that someone would want to purchase a property so that they could invest more into it to maintain a road. That's curious.
Okay.
And Mr. Sandoval, if I were to just point, did the Romances live over here?
they live on the north side, first one next to McLean. So it would be
Right.
to your right.
Okay, and they want, okay. Mr. Chairman, I would feel more comfortable discussing this further, and maybe we should table this for now until we can, that's just a suggestion, sir.
No, thanks for your input. Supervisor Klein?
Oh, I'm in line with him. I think this one needs to be tabled and we get more information and pull Steve in here and maybe make our lawyer feel a little bit easier too, huh?
But, you know, the thing of it is I love very much getting these past properties back on the tax roll of things and stuff. And so, but, yeah, I kind of feel the same, that we could use more information. Although, you know, it sounds nice, but the maintain level, the expense that the other people have put in the road. So, okay, if there's no further comments, I'll call for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table this item, number 2B.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion to table 2B, and we have a second. So all in favor, do so by saying aye.
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 Aye. It was unanimous that we feel we need more information to make a decision on this one. Okay, moving right along. Now we get into, hold on, consent agenda items. Agenda items will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed and voted upon as a regular agenda item upon the request of any member of the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Christensen, do you care to remove anything from the consent agenda item and discuss it?
No, sir, I do not.
Supervisor Klein?
No, I just point out one, and that's on D, is that looks like Corey Busboom is going to purchase another over-the-counter sale in Hayden, I would assume. So just pointing that out.
Yeah, and I'll go with you, but I got to do C too because, I just like seeing these old properties that don't have a home, get a home, and get back on the tax roll. And so that's great to see them on C and D, Marion. And Missy, thank you all very much for helping us do this. And so, okay, if there's nothing to be removed, I'll call for a motion on the consent agenda items.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion to accept consent agenda action items 3A through 3L.
I'll second that.
Having a motion, a second, all in favor do so by saying aye.
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 Aye. The consent agenda items were approved unanimously. Okay, we'll go to call to the public. Do we have any public in Payson that would care to address
No,
the
sir.
board today?
No, sir, we do not.
And I don't see anyone here. Do we have anyone on YouTube that would care to address the board today? Okay, then we have no call to the public. Then we'll go on to Agenda 5. At any time during the meeting pursuant to ARS 38-431.02K, members of the Board of Supervisors and County Manager may present a brief summary of current events. No action may be taken on information presented. I'm going to start with Mr. Menlove because I always forget him.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we finally got yesterday the guaranteed maximum price for that regional drainage project that we've been discussing for a considerable length of time. That project has come in at guaranteed maximum price at just under $3 million, with another allowance for, should they hit hard rock, an extra $500,000 for in their excavating that they hit hard rock. So it could run as much as $3.5 million for that project. That's the guaranteed maximum price. I know that we have discussed that this is an issue that is not Gila County's. It's not our responsibility, not our issue. The board, in a good faith act, has previously said that we would commit $500,000 to the project. That would mean the town of Payson would have to come up with $2.5 to $3 million for us to go forward. You can infer what their decision will be from that. But the project of building the new facility is underway and moving forward. So we're thankful for that. Secondly, want to express appreciation to our health department. We had an article in the New York Times just in the last day or two that praised Gila County. Tremendously good article, and we owe that to our health department for their organization, their continuous nonstop effort, and their dedication to doing their jobs. So I want to publicly acknowledge all those that have been involved in distributing the vaccinations. We are close to 40% after this last weekend. The clinic that we held over the weekend in Payson, nearly 2,000 people vaccinated. And so it is moving along, and we're progressing, and that is really good news for Gila County. And thank you to the health department, Michael O'Driscoll and his team. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menlove. Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to reiterate, yes, they are digging trenches for the footing, I believe, of the building and things like that. And so it's coming along. It's exciting to think about. And I'll let Woody talk more about it if he'd like. But he and Cameron Davis were on KMOG yesterday morning, and the show went well, and talked about our website and the success of that. So that's all I have to say now.
Supervisor Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I got kind of a list. So last Thursday, if you remember it right, we worked with the Forest Service and got those Ramada covers from the lake. And there was 3 of them put up in Hayden. There was 2 at the Boys and Girls Club. And there's 2 up here at Girasetti Park for the town of Globe. So we checked those out. They did a good job. I have a question or 2 for them, but other than that, they did good. They look good. Those ones in Hayden look a whole lot better than that motel sitting there. I can tell you that. So, but they're pretty well done. We set up a cleanup day for Thursday of this week, day after tomorrow, over there in Irene's Wash. There's a place over there where apparently a lot of people from around Globe and whatnot go in there and shoot and do a lot of things, and it is trashed up really bad. So we're going to be working on that Thursday. If anybody's available and wants to come out to the woods, or I come on and we'll have a good time there. And then, like Mr. Christensen said, yesterday I was on KMOG with Cameron. Cameron did an awesome job. He always does. Our website, Discover Gila County, is doing really, really well. We had the whole hour dedicated just to Discover Gila County, but we had a lot of phone calls coming in, and they would lead off to other things. But still, Cameron did a very good job. A couple or a few things that came up besides the Discover Gila County was the chance of ever seeing affordable housing in Payson. And it's not only Payson, it's across our county as a whole. I touched on that a little bit, and I just constantly go back to the same thing that, James, we've been talking about working on. We've got to get to the point where we can sit down with our mayors and everybody and start talking about issues and projects. That's what we got to do and what's going on. The new multi-use building in Payson, I expected some phone calls on that. I didn't get any. And apparently, and they were telling me at the station, and Mr. Christensen can probably speak to this too, there has been some calls coming in concerning the looks of it and whatnot. But, yeah, not a lot. So, and I expected to have 1 or 2 of those calls come, but they didn't. The event center there south of town, they've talked about this for a long time of having a dome over that, which would allow them to attract a lot of other events. I was asked about that, if the county could, help the town, look for grants, look for other money to maybe put in on that. Then about the last question really was on the rest area on 188 and opening that up. So those were the kind of the questions we got, but which I didn't mind, but it did take away from Cameron. But Cameron was able to get in some good information. Yesterday also I was scheduled to meet with the district ranger there in Payson, Matt Pachorik. He wasn't able to come to the meeting in person, but we visited on the phone, and it has to do with the admin site in Young. And so we have a copy of the draft lease, and we've been looking at that and going through it, and I had a couple of questions for Matt on that. So we talked about that, and we're still working out some figures, basically. And what it's going to be is the county under this lease, it's a 20-year lease, and if it goes through, what would happen is it would be based on the value of the structures that's going to come in this lease. Like 3 to 5% would be the cost of the lease, but instead of money, it'd be in lieu of fixing the water systems, septic systems, buildings, things like that. It's a trade-off. So, but we're working back and forth right now to come up with more of a dollar figure that we're going to be trading back and forth. So that's what we're on now. The other thing I was asked was about the Fossil Creek, the issue over there, and this started back, well, that's been going on for a long time, but if you remember, we held a meeting in Strawberry, and I had the chairman from the Yavapachi tribe come over, and we met, and then we set up a field day and went out and we looked at Fossil Creek and talked about that, and about the idea of somehow fixing that trail, that Bob Bear Trail off in there, to at least be able to accommodate a side-by-side for rescue efforts and whatnot coming out of there. We were doing really good, and Chairman Huey with the tribe, he was taking it back to the tribal council to talk about it and all that. That's right about the time COVID hit. And so things kind of slowed way down and settled down. We'd been going, as time went on, I never heard from the chairman, but anyway, long story short, he ended up having COVID and took a little time to get over it. So now we're back in there. We're going to see what we can do and what the tribe's thoughts are on this. And Mr. Christensen's going to be involved with this and tied into it. And it's his district, and we'll let him just take it. It'll be yours. But so there's still some more work there to do, but hopefully pretty soon the tribe's going to be talking to us. The other thing, we heard Ashley talking about droughts and everything. We all know we're in a drought. So summertime's coming up fast. I would expect that the forest will be looking at forest closures. One of the things I talked with the ranger about yesterday was, to make things perfectly clear, he does not like forest closures. He does not like doing that. But what I asked him is when you do forest closures, instead of in the past that you've done them just across the board, shut everything down, close it, nobody's allowed anywhere. But they have the developed campgrounds, the big developed campgrounds in our forest. And what I asked him is if it comes to the point where you guys are looking at closures again, how about we keep those developed campgrounds open, that part of it, and let people, at least give people a chance or a place where at least some of them can go to enjoy what summer there is. And so he took that down, and he's real interested in doing that. So I told him I'd help him however way he needed help. I didn't know what it would be, but I'd really appreciate it if he'd look at that. The other thing that has went on is they had applied for some grant money out of the region again, just like they did last year for their YCC crew. They did not get that grant money. So I'm working with him on that and working a different avenue on that. Maybe we can pull something together. And so I'll be having some more meetings with him. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with resolution and the issues on the EIS, but it did get pulled, it looks like. And so I'm sure there's a lot of back and forth going on right now, but that's going to halt that project until they work it out. And I don't know what's going to happen there. I really don't know. It all goes back to the programmatic agreement in that EIS. And what that means is they go around and they work with all the interested parties and everybody involved. Well, in this group, there's 11 tribes involved in this programmatic agreement. One of those tribes withdrew, pulled up a representative here in Arizona, and they went back to basically the historical preservation side of the EIS and come at it that way. So Forest Service pulled the EIS. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen at this point. I guess that's all I have.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in regard to resolution, I know Congressman Gosar has issued a very strongly worded response to pulling that EIS. So they're back in Washington, D.C. Our congressional delegation is working working to get this rectified and corrected. So.
You know, if I may, Mr. Chair, this one is, when this came up, and we just all wrote letters just a week ago in favor of keeping all this together and keeping it going. Resolution has spent tons of money on this program. They've had a lot of people working. They've participated in all the community stuff. I mean, they have dumped a lot of money into this. It's the process. I know that. I know what happens when administrations change and what can happen. But it's a sad deal to see that, where 1 out of 11 tribes can pull this out and turn a project upside down. Does not make good sense to me at all. Unfortunately, it's one of our tribes. So,
Thank you for your comments. Today, this evening, I'll have a public meeting in Tonto Basin. I'm happy that I get back out in front of the public. Meetings are starting to build back up after COVID. And then I have a conference call with Todd Bachman, our lobbyist at the Capitol, on things that we need to work on there. And then I have a Roosevelt community meeting on the 8th, and it's been said, why don't I have one in Claypool anymore? Because the fire department didn't want me bringing public people during COVID into the deal and into their fire stations. So I'm going to start being on the radio, I think, next month. And so then I'll be able to be live on the radio for people to call in with their comments, whether they, things that they think we need to be addressing. So I'm looking forward to that. And Supervisor Klein, congratulations on your cleanup on Irene Wash. I don't know if you're working with the BLM or not, but that is BLM, and we tried to work with them and had them there on a lot of that. And I think, last week I got a call from a constituent that there was a broke down vehicle full of garbage there. So they wanted to call this SO to see if maybe they could get those people that are doing the dumping up there. So yeah, it is a bad deal. And like I say, we've been working with BLM on a lot of that, because there's a lot of abandoned mine sites up there as well that aren't fenced off that need to be. And so anyway, that's about all I have. And if that didn't spark a comment from anyone else, I'll adjourn today's meeting, and thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.